Hey guys, it's Claire the Fiddle Leaf Fig Girl, and today I want to answer your questions about how to water your Fiddle Leaf Fig. Now I know when you bring a new plant home, you put it in your house and the first thing you think is, uh-oh, when do I need to water this? And how much water? And what kind of water? And how often? So don't panic, I have you covered. We're going to walk you through everything you need to know about how to water your Fiddle Leaf Fig plant. So the most important thing to understand about Fiddle Leaf Figs is that they don't like a lot of water. You really want to let the soil dry out between waterings, and it's important not to overwater them or they can get root rot. My favorite way to water your plant, if you're a novice, is using the 1 cup method. Now there's a lot of controversy around this method, but basically what you do is each week, I like to do it on Friday or Fiddle Leaf Fig Friday, use 1 cup of water, dump it on your plant, and then go about your life, and then next Friday do the same thing. It is very hard to underwater a Fiddle Leaf Fig. You're not gonna see a lot of symptoms of underwatering until they are in a long stage of drought, and so using the 1 cup method can feel like you're not giving your plant enough water, but you're preventing the most common death of a Fiddle Leaf Fig, which is overwatering. So it's just much more important to underwater than to overwater. The 1 cup method works really well for beginners, and it's something that you can try as you get to know your plant and as you become better at growing Fiddle Leaf Figs. I think it's a great place to start. The other method that you can use is the soak method, where you want to do is you want to let your plant basically fully dry out. So the soil is very, very dry, and then you completely soak the soil so that 10 to 15% of the water runs out the bottom of the container. This is great for outdoor plants, or it's great for plants that you could take outdoors to fully water, or you could even put it in the shower and fully water your plant. The key to this method is that you're really going to want to make sure you only do this every few weeks or maybe even every month, depending on the size of your pot and how wet your soil is staying, because you really run the risk of overwatering your plant and causing root rot, which can kill your plant in a hurry. So no matter which method you use, you definitely want to be using clean water that is purified. And so the purer the water, the better. I actually have a water filtration system and a reverse osmosis filter that I use to get perfectly pure water. You're going to want to make sure that you're not watering plants with softened water that can have excess salt in it, or anything besides water. So a lot of people I see, putting coffee on their plants and some of these other, substances to try to get their plant to grow. I really recommend staying away from that, because what happens is the soil can get very acidic, and then it eventually can build up in acidity and kill your plant. The next thing I want to talk about is the temperature of the water. So it's important to use room temperature water. Using too cold of water can really shock your plant. So think about a plant in the wild is getting watered with rainwater that is going to be pretty warm in the tropical rainforest where a Fiddle Leaf Fig comes from. So using room temperature water is a good way to give your plant what it's used to in the wild and to not shock your plant with too cold of water or too hot of water. So, around 70 degrees is perfect. So let's talk about watering techniques. As you're watering your plant, the 1 cup method is great because it keeps you from overwatering. You're basically just going to dump the water on the plant, but that's a really kind of a short-term solution. As you get better at watering your plant, you're going to want to adapt to watering it regularly, where you put the water all over the pot. That way it soaks through all of the corners of the soil, because what happens with Fiddle Leaf Figs is their roots will grow throughout the entire pot. And you want to make sure that you're not only watering one side of the pot or just the top of the pot. You want to make sure that over time your whole pot is getting access to water, because you don't want the roots to dry out in one area of the pot. So if you were to not thoroughly water ever, you actually would eventually get root desiccation, where the roots are drying up in some areas of the pot that aren't getting access to water. And so it's important to eventually kind of maintain regular water throughout the pot so that none of your root system is drying out over time. So in summary, you just want to make sure not to overwater your Fiddle Leaf Fig. They really like to stay on the dry side, and so I recommend starting with the 1 cup method until you're confident enough that your plant is going to have adequate drainage, that it's not going to be sitting in too much water. So always check the soil. I recommend using a soil meter. You can stick the soil meter all the way down to the bottom and see if the pot is wet at the bottom, and you can also poke around and see how dry is your soil at different areas of your pot. And so soil meters are really, really helpful as you're learning to water your plant properly and as you're getting better at taking care of your Fiddle Leaf Fig. So if you want to learn how to use a soil meter, I will link to a video where I go through everything you need to know about that. I hope this video was helpful. Thanks, and happy growing.